My parents missed my son's 10th birthday. Not even a text. But a week later, my mom messaged, "Can you send $2,000 for your sister's engagement party?" I didn't respond. I just blocked them. By morning, they desperately called 28 times. I'll never forget the look on my son's face when he realized they weren't coming. He was wearing the blue shirt my mom gave him 2 birthdays ago. One of the few gifts she actually remembered. He picked it out himself that morning, saying, "Grandma likes when I wear this one." My heart cracked a little when he said that, but I smiled and helped him fix the collar. This year was supposed to be different. He had told all his little friends at school that his grandparents were coming for his birthday party. "They're gonna drive from Jersey just for me," he said proudly, even though they hadn't said a word to either of us in weeks. Not a single confirmation. Still, he believed in them. He set aside 2 slices of cake and saved the biggest balloon for my dad, the one shaped like a football. He made a card for my mom with glitter and macaroni glued to it that said, "Thank you for loving me." But the hours passed. The sun went down. The guests left. The candles burned out. And they never showed up. Not a call. Not a text. Not a, "Sorry, something came up." Just nothing. And maybe that would have hurt me more if I hadn't already been used to it. But my son wasn't. He's only 10. He still believes in birthdays and family and promises. He still thinks people mean what they say. At bedtime he tried to act tough. You know how boys are sometimes, pretending they don't care. He mumbled, "Maybe their car broke down." I nodded. I kissed his forehead. I didn't have the heart to tell him they just didn't care. And I told myself, like I've told myself 1,000 times before, this is why I keep them at arm's length. This is why I never rely on them. But the very next week, she messaged me. My mom. Out of nowhere. Not, "How was the party?" Not, "Sorry we missed it." Not, "How's my grandson doing?" No. Just, "Can you send $2,000 for your sister's engagement party?" Like we were just business partners or something. Like I was her personal ATM. Like nothing had even happened. I stared at the message so long I think my phone screen dimmed. I didn't reply. I didn't ask questions. I just blocked them. Both of them. No drama. No big speech. I was done. But guess what? By the next morning I had 28 missed calls. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. All from my sister's phone. First I thought something happened. A car accident. A hospital emergency. But my gut knew better. And I was right. When I finally answered, I heard my mom's voice. Out of breath. Talking fast. "We want to come," she said. "We want to see you. See him. Fix things." And I paused. Because for a second, just 1 second, the part of me that still wanted to believe them said, "Maybe this time they mean it." So I agreed. But not because I trusted them. No, I had something else in mind. And if you think I was just going to sit there and let them sweep everything under the rug, think again. You ever get to the point where you're so tired of being used that you finally snap? That was me. Right then. So I said yes. Let them come. Let them see what I've become without them. Tell me, would you have let them back in? Even for a second? Is what I did next. Let's just say, this story is just ing started. So yeah, I told them they could come. And they did. The very next day. No planning. No heads up. No, "Are you free?" Just a dry text from my sister's number that said, "We're outside." Just like that. Like they were dropping off cupcakes, not walking back into a life they'd ignored. I stared at the screen for a good 10 seconds. My hands were shaking. You know when your body knows something is off before your brain catches up? That was me. My stomach was tight, and not because I was nervous, because I was angry. Angry they came on their terms. I opened the door. There they were. My mom in her usual dramatic look. Huge sunglasses like she thought she was some kind of celebrity. Lipstick too bright for 10 a.m. And my dad? Silent as always, trailing behind her like some tired ghost. He gave me that fake little smile. "Sweetheart, you look thin. Are you eating enough?" Can you believe that? That's the first thing she said. After missing my son's birthday. After asking for money. After nothing. Not even, "How's he doing?" Not, "Can we talk?" Just, "You look thin," like I was still 15, failing algebra and needing her approval. I didn't hug her. I didn't say hello. I just opened the door wider and said, "You've got 10 minutes. Don't sit down." You might think that's harsh. But let me ask you, how many times can someone let you down before you finally stop offering them chairs in your life? They stepped in like they owned the place, eyes wandering around trying to read the room. My dad didn't say a word. He never really does. I used to think that meant he wasn't guilty of anything, just going along with whatever my mom decided. But now I know better. Guilt hides in silence. I let them walk into the dining room where the decorations from the party were still up. I hadn't taken them down. Maybe part of me couldn't. Streamers, a half-deflated tin balloon, a Spider-Man paper plate with a single candle still stuck in the frosting. And that balloon, the football-shaped one, still floating. My son had begged me not to pop it. "It's for Grandpa," he'd said. "In case he shows up late." He never showed. So I pointed. I didn't say much. Just motioned to the table and said, "That was his party. Last week. You remember?" They froze. My mom fidgeted with her purse. My dad looked at the floor. And she said, and I swear I wanted to scream, "We had things going on." Things. That was it. Not an apology. Not an ounce of regret. Just things. "I guess his birthday wasn't one of them," I said. Silence. You ever stand in a room with people you're supposed to love and feel like a complete stranger? Like you're the one who messed up just because you're the only one telling the truth? I looked straight at my mom and said, "I know why you're really here. It's not about my son. It's not even about me. It's about my sister's stupid party and the fact that your golden girl can't throw a bridal shower without bleeding me dry. I know, harsh, right? But can I ask you something? Why do the people who give the least always ask for the most?" Her smile dropped then. She blinked like I'd slapped her. My dad finally opened his mouth and said quietly, "It's not like that." So I asked, "Then what is it like, Dad? Please, explain to me how this doesn't look exactly like what it is." Still no answer. And then, of course, my son walked into the room. He must have heard voices. He had bedhead and was rubbing his eyes, still in his little dinosaur pajamas. But the moment he saw them, his whole face lit up. "Grandma," he said. "Grandpa." He ran toward them before I could say anything. And they bent down and hugged him like nothing had happened. Like they'd been there all along. And I swear I felt something shatter inside me. Because after all the lies, all the silence, he still loved them. Still welcomed them like open doors. Still saved them the best pieces of his birthday. That's when I started to doubt myself. Was I being too harsh? Too protective? Too angry? But then I looked at my son, hugging them with his whole heart, and I remembered. He doesn't know better yet. I do. And it's my job to protect him from that heartbreak. Not to feed him to it just because he smiles when he sees it. So I let them stay. I didn't do it for them. I did it for my son. But what I didn't know was that they were hiding something. Something I wasn't supposed to find out. And when I did, oh, the entire dynamic shifted. Have you ever discovered something about your own family that made your skin crawl? Is what I found out that night. It made me question everything. So yeah, I let them stay. Not because I believed they deserved to. Not because I forgave anything. But because my son loves them and for some reason he still sees them as people worth loving. Maybe that's the innocent thing about being 10. Maybe that's what I lost a long time ago. They sat on the edge of the couch like they were the ones being judged, and they were. I leaned against the counter and said, "Let's not pretend this is about family. You want something?" Again. My mom did her classic sigh. The one where she closes her eyes dramatically like she's some tragic soap opera character. Then she launched in, "Look, your sister's engagement is important. She's had such a hard year and we just want to celebrate her. She deserves that." I stared at her. My sister had a hard year. The same sister who went on 2 cruises, bought herself a brand new iPhone, and posted an entire Instagram reel about soft girl luxury life? You know who had a hard year? Me. Working double shifts, dealing with co-parenting nonsense from an ex who vanishes every other weekend, and raising a child who still believes his grandparents will show up for him. And now they wanted me to open my wallet. Again for the girl who couldn't even text my son happy birthday? "No," I said. "You don't get to show up a week late and lead with a price tag." That's when something weird happened. My mom looked at my dad. And my dad, he actually looked up. That man who barely speaks, who blends into the background like a forgotten wall. He looked at her like he couldn't hold it in anymore. "Tell her," he said. Quiet, but firm. He stiffened. "Tell me what?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. If you're about to tell me she's secretly pregnant, I swear to God. He cut her off and said it bluntly. Your sister took out a loan in my name. 15,000. We just found out last week. I blinked. Wait. What? She forged the paperwork, he continued. Used documents she found at the house. We only found out when the bank flagged some inconsistencies. I actually felt dizzy. My knees almost gave out. They weren't here for a party. They were here to fix a financial mess my sister created, and didn't want me to know about. So the $2,000? I asked. Not for flowers or cake or some dumb dress? My mom swallowed hard. It's the first payment. To stop the bank from escalating it. And you know what really got me? They had the nerve to still come in here acting like I was just supposed to say sure, and hand it over. No explanation, no apology, no truth. And let them go back to pretending like they weren't dragging my sister's mess around like a disease. You let my son sit by the window waiting for you, I said, my voice shaking. So you could clean up a crime. You chose her. Again. And that's when my mom said something that hit me harder than I thought it would. She's always needed more help than you. You ever have someone you love tell you, to your face, that your pain doesn't matter because you're too strong? I didn't even respond. I just walked into the kitchen, hands trembling, and poured myself a glass of water before I said something I'd regret. That's when I noticed it. A plain white envelope on the end of the kitchen counter. At first I thought it was junk mail. Something the mailman slipped through the door. But it didn't have a name. No stamp. No writing. Just sitting there. Heavy. What's this? I asked. My mom turned, confused. She looked at my dad and his face dropped. We were going to give that to you, he said. When? I asked. No answer. I opened it slowly, expecting another bill, maybe something else they wanted to dump on me. But inside. Kish. Found it. $100 bills. $3,000. I looked up. My hands were shaking. Where did this come from? And then my dad said something that made my throat close up. Your grandmother, Nana. She left it for you. Told us to give it to you when your son turned 10. I stopped breathing. You know that feeling where grief hits you all over again but in a completely new way? Nana. She was the only person in my family who didn't make me feel invisible. The only one who believed in me even when I had nothing. I still remember her saying, when life gets heavy, a little light tucked away can make all the difference. I'll make sure you have one. And they kept it from me? For months? A whole year even. You let me cry over bills. You watched me work overtime. And you sat there with this envelope in a drawer. I whispered. My mom said, we were holding it until the right moment. But we both knew the truth. They were waiting to use it. Waiting to see if I'd break and offer them money first so they could pass this off like some divine act of charity instead of what it really was. Something they were never entitled to in the first place. Suddenly, I was done. You're staying for dinner, I said, eyes still on that envelope. Not because I want you here, but because we're going to have a real conversation. For once. Because that night, I was going to lay it all out. The lies. The favoritism. The guilt. And the terms of what I was willing to do going forward. You ever have one of those moments where something just snaps in you, and you know right then you're never going to be the same? That was me. And dinner would be the start of everything unraveling. I made spaghetti. I don't know why. It was the first thing I grabbed from the pantry, and honestly, I needed something to keep my hands busy. Something to stop me from throwing the envelope of cash across the room or asking them to leave mid-sentence. As I stirred the sauce, they sat awkwardly at the kitchen table like guests at a wake. My son, bless him, thought everything was back to normal. He chatted while setting the table with mismatched napkins and asked Grandma if she still liked garlic bread. She smiled and said yes, like she hadn't just betrayed everyone in the room. He doesn't know any of this, I told them quietly while he was in the other room. And I wanted to stay that way. My mom nodded slowly, but the guilt wasn't on her face. Well, her face said annoyed. Like I was making a big deal out of nothing. Typical. Dinner was quiet at first. My son filled the space with talk about his favorite Pokemon and how he wanted to learn to ride his bike with no hands. My dad smiled and nodded, pretending like nothing was broken between us. But I wasn't going to pretend anymore. After my son excused himself to play in his room, I put my fork down and looked them both dead in the eye. So here's how this is going to go. My mom raised an eyebrow mid-bite. First, I'm not giving you a single cent. Not from Nana's money. Not from mine. You're on your own. She started to speak, but I didn't let her. Second, you will never ask me for money again. Not for my sister. Not for a birthday. Not for a last-minute crisis that she caused. It's not that simple, my mom started, but I cut her off again. It is. It's that simple because I'm making it that simple. You've treated me like the backup plan for long enough. The fixer. The cash cow. The emotional punching bag. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. Maybe he finally saw it. Maybe not. I honestly didn't care anymore. Then I leaned forward and said something I never thought I'd have the guts to say out loud. If you ever make my son feel like he's second place to my sister again, you will not see him again. I won't let him grow up thinking love is something he has to earn with silence and obedience. That one hit hard. Because my mom's jaw tightened. Her eyes blinked fast like she was holding something back. Regret? Maybe. Anger? Probably. And then out of nowhere she said, "We never meant to hurt you. We just didn't know how to raise you." That stopped me. Because for the first time in years she admitted something. Not exactly an apology. But a crack. A fracture in the wall she'd built for decades. "You always had to figure things out," she said quietly. "Your sister, she couldn't. We knew you'd survive." Imagine being told your whole childhood pain was just because they assumed you'd survive. No hugs. No check-ins. No protection. Just survival. And somehow that made it worse. "You made me strong," I said. "But not by loving me. By ignoring me." There was silence. Thick. Heavy. Like the kind you don't recover from in a single dinner. Then my dad reached into his jacket and pulled something out. "Backbook. We're going to start paying back what we owe," he said. I blinked. "Excuse me. The gifts you sent your sister. The help over the years. You shouldn't have had to carry all of that. I have a pension. It's not much. But we'll start small." My mom stared at him like he'd just confessed to murder. I didn't say anything. I just watched her. "You didn't know he was going to do this, did you?" She shook her head slowly. And suddenly, for the first time ever, she looked unsure. Vulnerable. Off script. Good. Because I needed her to feel what it's like to not be in control. And right then I made a decision. "You can be in his life," I said, nodding toward the hallway where my son was humming to himself. "But not on your terms. No more lies. No more guilt. No more pretending you did better than you did. And if you mess this up, even once, you'll be blocked again. But this time it won't be temporary." My mom didn't speak. My dad wrote a check for $300, small but symbolic, and slid it across the table. "This is the first time I've seen you," he said, voice rough. "Really take your power back. Your Nana would have been proud." I didn't cry. Not then. I waited until later. After they left. After my son was asleep. After I sat on the couch with that check in one hand and Nana's envelope in the other. Tell me something. Would you forgive your parents after all that? Or would you keep the walls up for good? Because me? I'm still figuring it out. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No surprise drama. No texts asking for just one more thing. Just silence. And I'll be honest, it felt peaceful. I had finally created boundaries, and for once they were being respected. My son was happier. I was sleeping better. The air in our house felt lighter, like we'd finally opened a window after years of stale tension. But healing always has this funny way of making you wonder. Did I do the right thing? Did I go too far? Will they ever change? And one Sunday afternoon, as I was folding laundry and my son was drawing dinosaurs on the patio, I heard a car pull up in the driveway. I peeked through the window. It was them. My sister. My mom. My dad. But this time they weren't dressed to impress. They weren't marching up with demands or excuses. They were carrying a cake. A real one. Not store-bought, not plastic-covered. Homemade. Chocolate. With the number 10 written in blue icing. And balloons. One said, "We missed you." The other said, "Family means showing up." That second one nearly got me. I opened the door slowly. I didn't say anything. Just stood there. My sister was the first to speak. "I know I don't deserve to be here," she said. "But I want to be. I want to fix it. All of it." She held out an envelope. I hesitated, then took it. Inside was a letter. No cash. No requests. Just her words. Messy handwriting and honest. I copied your strength all my life, she wrote. But I never gave you credit for surviving things I never had to. I'm sorry. Please let me be your sister again, not the spoiled version. The real one. I didn't even realize I was crying until I looked down and saw the envelope had a teardrop smudge on it. My mom came forward next. No sunglasses. No fake smile. Just her. I failed you, she said quietly. I thought you didn't need anything because you never asked for it. But you shouldn't have had to. You were just a kid. And I wasn't the mother I should have been. Then she opened her arms. I didn't move at first. But my son peeked out from behind me, saw her and yelled, "Grandma." He ran past me and hugged her legs like no time had passed. And you know what? I stepped forward too. Slowly. Carefully. And for the first time in years I let her hug me. My dad, still a man of few words, handed me a printed spreadsheet. A literal spreadsheet. It's a payment plan, he said. For everything we owe. And more. I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because I couldn't believe it. They were finally trying. We ended up sitting in the backyard. Eating cake on paper plates. My mom helped my son with his coloring book. My sister asked questions, real ones. Not just about how much I made or what I could give. But about how I was feeling. It wasn't just a reunion. It was a reset. A quiet, cautious new beginning. And yeah, we were still a little awkward. A little broken. A little scarred. But for the first time, felt like they saw me. Not just as the strong one. Not just the reliable daughter. But as a person. That night as I tucked my son into bed, he looked up at me and asked, "Are we a real family now?" And I smiled. Because I knew the answer. "We always were," I said. "We just forgot for a while." So, what do you think? Would you have let them back in? After everything? Because me? I finally did. And this time, I think it's for real.